Welcome back, listeners, to the Nice to Meet You podcast. This is your host, your girl, Lynette, and we're continuing on with season two. And I have a treat for you all, as I have the pleasure of speaking with Parker Mays, who is the host of the Taking a Breath podcast, and my guy, David Daniel. You all know him, he's been on my podcast a couple times. David Daniel, who is the host of the Leadership Journey podcast, he connected us. He was like, "You got to get this guy on." I was like, "Yeah, I got to get this guy on the Nice to Meet You podcast." So he has helped to make this connection possible. I thank you, David, for that. Parker is a junior at the NC State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. He is studying business administration with a concentration in marketing. Over the past few years, Parker has spent time investing in his personal growth, and this has led to the creation of the podcast. Taking a Breath premiered in, I believe I looked it up, May of 2020, and it is a show that is a community centered around growth for young leaders ages 16 to 24. And Parker told me it was okay to tell the listeners he's 20. So Parker's 20. So you young listeners out there, listen up to what Parker has to say. Most recently, he started an internship at Dale Carnegie Training, marketing a leadership course specifically for high school and college students. Join in with me in welcoming the Honorable Parker Mays to the Nice to Meet You podcast. I appreciate you taking time to speak with me today.
Thanks so much, Lynette. Excited to be here.
No problem. I'm excited to have you. Like I said, I want you to add a little bit of young flavor to the show.
Absolutely.
Y'all out there that may be like, this is for the old folks. No. Parker's going to let you know that personal growth, anyone can work on your personal growth. So the definition of turning point is a point in time when something happens that causes a shift or change in direction. What do you feel prompted the turning point in your life that made you decide to work on your own personal growth?
Absolutely. So when I graduated high school back in 2018, I really felt like this, chance, like a lot of people do, going to college and changing who I'm spending time with, and that was a huge turning point for me because it changed my environment. I realized that, okay, the people that I'm going to be around, maybe they are, like me, business or marketing majors, or they're interested in these sorts of things. And so that was a huge natural turning point when I came from a super small school, graduating class of 50 people.
Wow.
And so I was so used to knowing every single person. I'm so used to, just being very familiar with my surroundings. And now at NC State, my graduating class is 5,000 people, right? So 100 times as big as this. And it created this instant shift where I had to say, okay, I'm completely in the opposite setting. I'm in a school of 20,000 people. My class is 5,000 people, and saying, okay, how am I going to adapt? How am I going to make this work? And that was a huge turning point because I said, okay, I really need to get comfortable with people. I need to get comfortable putting myself out there to meet new people. And so, yeah, that was for me a huge turning point.
So listening to that jump 50 to 5,000, did that kind of put you in a competition type mode? Like did competition have anything to do with it?
Absolutely. I think that the biggest thing for me was realizing that, okay, in high school, there's a pretty big variety, right? Like, oh, some people are really serious. They want to go to Ivy League schools, or like I live 20 minutes from Duke University and UNC, right? There are these really good schools that are 20 minutes away from me. And so people are like, I want to go to Duke. I want to go to UNC. And then there are some people who are just like, maybe I don't want to go to college, or maybe, I don't want to pursue higher education, which is fine as well. But you have so much variety. And then once I got to college, well, there's nobody here who doesn't want to go to college, right? There's nobody here who isn't taking education seriously, just because in order to be here, you had to have some level of taking college seriously. And so with that, realizing that, okay, no longer am I just a serious student who can be separated by that. Now everyone's serious, and I really have to dig in. And so that was what I realized in the competition there. I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to stand out? And it was little things like connecting with new people and all of this stuff that helped me to stand out in that competitive environment.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So how did you stand out? What did
Yeah,
you do?
so well, and there was a few things. I think that one is a lot of people come into college and they're like, oh, who do I talk to first? And there's so many people, and they just get like kind of culture shock from how much is going on all the time. And so the first thing that kind of helped me to stand out was like, even before I got here, I'm just reaching out to people over messaging, like Instagram, all this different stuff. And so a lot of the connections I made were even before I got there. And I think that's important for people, is like, if you're jumping into a new environment, how can you create more familiarity for yourself and
Mhm.
more connections before getting there? And so that was a big one for me. And then I mean, I think that the work ethic side of it, all of that comes along with it. Is you have to really show people you're the serious candidate in terms
Mhm.
of separating yourself in that way. But the big one is people. I think like the even just a great example is us getting connected by David Daniel.
Yeah.
You know, just the fact that David, who's from Nigeria, could
Yeah.
connect two people based in the United States, where we're closer than he is to
Yeah.
either of us.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me. I just think who you know plays such a big part in how successful you can be in some of these types of situations.
No, I totally agree. So what do you feel like if you hadn't connected with, because you could have totally went the other way. You could have just like shrank within like, man, this is a culture shock. Like, man, I'm going from 50, or I'll put it like this. I'm going from being the man to being like one of 5,000. And so where do you get that attitude from? Like, have you like where did you get that from? The attitude that I have to build a connection. I have to seek out those things because some people I'll say that they don't have the attitude
Yeah.
and no one gave them direction. Like I said, speaking for me, like I feel like later in life I'm back in school and things like that. So I didn't have that mentality. I grew up
Yeah.
around people that did not have that mentality. Where did you get that mentality from?
Yeah, I think for me, like part of it is just personality. I love people, and I know that's not a not an action based answer, because there's really nothing that you can do about that piece of it. But the piece that is applicable is realizing what you want, right? Some people would prefer to know two or three people, spend every day, every hour with them, studying with them, hanging out with them, everything. That's completely fine if that's what you want. And some people like me, I want to know hundreds of people, right?
Okay.
I want to know all of these people. And so I knew what I wanted, and I knew how I had to get there was by, hey, every day I want to reach out to somebody new. I want to connect with somebody, And so if you are someone, maybe you go into college, like I want those few people, that's totally fine. What I hate to happen when it happens is if somebody says, I would love to do that and just connect with a lot of new people, and they're stuck with these two people that they met freshman year, and they're just there and
Yeah.
they just feel stuck, right? And it's about going into it knowing, hey, I really want to be intentional about connecting with more people. So that's my thing, is like, hey, why do you want what you want? And then how are you actually going to make the steps to get it?
That word intentional, like this is one of my favorite
Mm,
words. And intentionality, we don't know.
yes,
Like you have to know why you do what you do. Because if you don't know, you have no direction. You
that's it.
wake up every day, and I didn't. It took me a little bit longer that I woke up and I just okay, I'll put it to you like this. You're able to take care of yourself. You're not really wanting your needs are met. And it's like that's okay. That's okay for some people. And that used to be okay for me. But when you're a person of intentionality, you go after what you want. You're not just satisfied for things that happen like they happen. So on your journey of personal growth, what did you learn about Parker that you did not know?
Yeah. I really resonate with that. I think like what you said there, just super quick, that knowing the self-awareness to know what I want at my core
Mhm.
and being able to then apply and take action on it is a huge piece of personal growth.
No, I agree.
For me, I think the biggest thing I realized, and this is kind of it's kind of wild, is this like realization that in order to grow, in order to design your future, as like Michael Hyatt, who's one of my favorite authors, says, he says, in order to design your future, you must complete the past. It's this idea that in order to actually grow, in order to be the best version of yourself, to have your best year ever, which is his book, you have to complete the past. You have to realize, what are my limiting beliefs? What are the things I believe about myself that I'm saying to myself that I need to leave behind? I need to turn them into liberating truths, these
Mhm.
statements that are actually empowering me to achieve the things that I want to achieve.
Mhm.
And then the other piece of it is realizing, okay, where are my goals? Are
Mhm.
all my goals within my comfort zone? Or are they in the discomfort zone where they're going to grow me, they're going to stretch me a little bit? Or, like how far out can I go without realizing, like, oh my gosh, it's too far, right?
Mhm.
So creating those risky goals. So that was for me like a huge realization that in order to design my future, I have to complete my past,
Wow.
and breaking down those limiting beliefs and building the goals for myself that would help me to get out of my comfort zone and into the future I wanted to build for myself.
Wait, complete your past. You're 20. What path did you have to complete?
The playground, they would say things that got in my head.
Okay, okay. No, no, no. I'm just like the people, so listeners out there, they're probably thinking, complete my past. Like, realistically, what would you suggest? How many years would you say? I mean, it's different for different people, but
Yeah.
realistically, what are we thinking about here? How many years are you thinking?
So I run a monthly like accountability call with people, and the people who join that, like we talked about, kind of my target audience being younger leaders, it's like 16 to 22 usually on that call. And I run that exercise with them every time. It's, what are your limiting beliefs? It's, what are your goals? And I don't think that insecurity discriminates age.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
Mm-hmm.
is you can be 10 and have insecurities because somebody said something to you, a parent, a teacher, someone in authority over you said something that really hit deep.
Yeah.
And so the idea of like completing your past isn't as much, you're 40 years old and there's things that you've kind of developed over time. It's like you could be 7 years old or 70 years old and have self-talk that's negative,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. So, speaking about, like, there's an age difference between us, and I'm 38, you're 20. And
Yeah.
so, sitting here reflecting over my 20s, I know that I thought when I was in my 20s, I kind of thought, like, I wasn't a partier or things like that, but I say that I thought, 20s, this is a time for me to just kind of have fun. Okay, I'm an adult, kind of, but I still have time to figure it out. And my parents will be there to catch me if I fall or things like that. So, I looked this up. I was just thinking, like, what does other people think, like, about their 20s? Like, what in the world are we really thinking here? So I wish that I had the desire that you had to work on my personal growth back when I was in my 20s. So I know of some other 20 something year olds out there that's probably listening, like, yeah, I don't got time for that. I don't got time for self exploration. I don't got time for self awareness. I don't have time for personal growth. And they think it's time for partying, enjoying your life, struggling to pay your bills, or maybe not even having any bills, still being at home with mommy and daddy in the basement, things like that. And
Yeah.
so I looked it up, and there's a psychologist named Dr. Meg J. And she says in your 20s, those are the defining decades, meaning it is time to focus on interests and talents and to make sound choices. Would you agree that this is the time to manage your life wisely because it can help frame the rest of your life? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that there's this idea that you mentioned there that I don't have time for this.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of people think that way, which is why I wanted to dig into that for a second. Having time is only about priorities.
Mhm.
Having time for something, there is no, I don't have time for this. It's just I'm not prioritizing it
Yeah.
over the other things in my life, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, for students, there are things like education, my part-time job, my internship, my friends, my social life, my physical health, my mental health. There's a lot of things that I have to juggle.
Mhm.
But building personal growth and your soft skills, especially your communication, your interaction with other people, is an investment that is going to multiply
Yeah.
over your 20s, 30s, 40s. And
Mhm.
here I'm saying that at 20, investing because I know that at 30 and at 40 and at 50, I'm going to see benefits from conversations like this that I'm having right now.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people just don't think in terms of the future because, like you said, they're kind of focused on the present, which is totally fine. But in the long run, if you can realize that, okay, well, I don't have money to invest right now because I'm a student, I'm broke,
Hmm.
but I have the time to invest. I have the intellect that I can build. And that's where the investment pays off long term.
Yeah, and I'll say that we're not our bodies are not gonna feel like working forever.
Yeah.
So when you're young, you have to build for the years that you're not gonna be able to work. So
Mm,
think about it. We'll relate it to finance. You go to the bank, you put money in, then you can go and get money out. But if you're not putting money in, then what are you gonna get out? If nothing, like I just said this in my last episode, nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
mm.
So if you don't invest in your life, if you don't invest into your life, then who is? Would you agree with that?
I think ownership is so important. People think that someone else is going to help my personal growth, or I'm going to have mentors or peers or anything like that. And at the end of the day, personal growth, it's about ownership. It's about me saying, I'm going to do the things that it takes to get me to the next level, whether it's about speaking and I want to speak better, or I want to write better, or I want to lead a team better, or whatever it is. The idea of personal growth is 100% ownership. And that's exactly what you're sharing there.
Yeah, and I feel like I heard you speak on David's podcast about us being our own worst critic. And
Mm,
so I looked this
yeah.
just there's the clinical psychologist because I'm all about research. I don't just say things. I looked this up. There's a clinical psychologist, Ellen Hendrickson, and she said we are each our own worst critic. She defines social anxiety as a perception that there is something embarrassing or deficient about us, and that unless we work hard to conceal or hide it, it will be revealed and then
Mm,
will be judged or rejected as a result. The root of social anxiety is fear that what we perceive is wrong with us will be revealed. So we try to avoid it at all costs, which can prevent us from putting ourselves out there and meeting new people and trying new things. Would you agree with that?
wow. That's powerful. I actually, it's interesting. I'm glad that there's research that backs up that, because that's something that has been kind of true to me. Like, I am always the one who's judging myself the most harshly. But I love that relation to social anxiety, the feeling that we ourselves aren't good enough in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that there's just this sense that, like, other people aren't seeing us the way we see ourselves, because
Yeah.
we always are seeing our worst days. We're seeing the things that we hate about ourselves. We're seeing the things that someone else is never going to see on the outside. Oh, the
Mm-hmm.
way I treated someone, or the way that I talked to this person, or the way I had this conversation. And when we realize that okay, we're always the ones who are completely honest with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
other people are just not that intimately connected with us. And
Yeah,
so we have to be cautious about the self-talk, again, the limiting beliefs and the things that we're saying about ourselves, because it can really have a damaging effect on our confidence, our social anxiety, the
yeah.
things that we're the ways that we're interacting with other people. And so I think that's spot on. I love that.
No, I could speak to that. That being somewhere and you can create this whole picture, this whole story in your head that you've told yourself that no one is thinking anything about this, but you've created a story that you're scared to try things because people are going to think I'm weird. If I say this, what are people going to think about? They're going to judge me. They're going to feel like this. And people, I'll say this, and listeners, don't take this the wrong way. People just don't have that much time to be invested in you. They're not thinking about you. They're not worrying what Lynette is doing, what Parker is doing. So don't think that if you do something, that's what other people are going to perceive about you, because they have their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
They haven't, and if they do say something about you, I feel like we must ask ourselves, what does that person mean to us? Like, what is their value on our lives? If they do judge us or critique us in any type of way, what do they really mean to us? And I feel like, so put that in reverse, Parker. I'll say that sometimes I know for me, I struggle with compliments. So it wasn't that, I mean, I am my own worst critic also, but I'll say that sometimes I struggle with people complimenting me. They would say like, Lynette, you're awesome in this and stuff like that. And I'm like, what are you seeing? Why am I not, why are you see these things, but I don't see them? Have you,
Mm.
in the reverse of, have you ever struggled or been aware or been around someone that struggles with compliments?
Wow. Yeah, and it's funny because I'll be honest, I haven't thought deeply into that. I think that idea is super interesting, and I'll have to look into it a little bit more. But the idea, I don't know the psychology behind struggling with receiving a compliment well. I definitely focus more on like the insecurity side of stuff. So I can't really speak to that, but I think that idea is fascinating for sure.
Yeah, because I'll say that, like, I always speak about my girl Alicia Keys, and David told you about how I feel about her. And
Yeah.
so I'll give you an example. Her book. Her book is called More of Myself. And so I read her book, and she said that people would tell her how amazing she is. And
Hmm.
so she would felt like that the other people that are not hearing these compliments, she's making them feel some type of way because her greatness is being like they're shocked, like, oh, like Alicia's amazing, Alicia is great, and she's worried about how Susie's feeling over here, how
Wow.
Joe is feeling about himself. So she can't truly accept the compliments because also for me, I'm always worrying about like, or I was worrying about how the next person is feeling. Is it making them struggle in their self esteem? And so what her book taught me is that if a person is offended by you receiving a compliment, that person must look within themselves and ask themselves, why am I
Hmm.
offended by someone else being complimented?
I like that idea. And I think too there's this additional thought there where if if I'm receiving compliments, there's this like, if I feel really good, there's nothing to keep me from being genuinely, complimentary of other people as well. I think there's this idea of like the cycle of gratitude where if I receive a compliment and I feel really good, I'm super grateful for it, like I'm so much more likely to pass that on. Like I want to build people up because happy people create happiness, create joy, create gratitude. David is someone who is an
Yeah.
incredible example of this. I tell David, hey man, like I love this episode that you put together, and he's gonna say thanks so much, and he's gonna go to the next person, and he's gonna say, hey, I love what you're doing here. I just think that there are people who get those compliments, and it's about like how can I continue to create
Yeah.
gratitude and love and positivity. And so
Hmm.
I love that idea from Alicia Keys's book there. And I think for us individually, there's this incredible opportunity to take positivity and use it as a motivator to then pour it out on other people and
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
them as well. So
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, and listening to you talk, I know that what she did, or so I'll speak for me, is that
Sure.
I was okay with. Okay, I wasn't okay. Okay, so compliments they came to me, and it made me uncomfortable, but I couldn't sit in the compliment. I just
Mm,
couldn't say thank you. It's like thank you, but so and so. It was always an additional commentary. It wasn't
sure.
like thank you. It's like thank you, but this could have been this could have been that. And so I'm all about giving it out. It's just that being able to sit with it, just sit with the compliment and not try to do anything else with it. Just take it for what it is. And so I think that sometimes that could be a challenge within itself too. People that are all about inspiring others, it's just sometimes that they can't receive it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to receive something that you're always giving out.
It's interesting. And
Yeah.
I wonder, is there like, and this is just a curiosity kind of throwing the question out, is there elements to that of like an insecurity where I'm still, because even in that situation, I'm still seeing my worst faults where like if it's thanks for the compliment but I could have done this better, that's still the self-critic.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so there's still, I think potentially there's still elements of that where it could be tied back into maybe some insecurity, negative self-talk, or something like that. But I don't know, that's just again just an idea
No,
thrown out
no,
there.
no. I feel like they're related. I feel like that those two are cousins, if I can say it.
Yeah.
But no. The term today, like boss. I'm a boss. She's a boss. People just kind of
Yes.
like throw that out there. So, or I'm making boss moves. Sometimes I say that, and the reason that I say it is that I'm speaking to the confidence that that person has, because I haven't
Yes.
always been a confident person. When I see like Kamala Harris today, as like when I see people making, I say boss, I'm saying that I'm attracted to their confidence. And
Hmm.
so, but I feel like today people use the boss term rather loosely. So, okay, so can you describe in your words, Parker, what is the difference between being a boss versus being a leader?
Yeah, it's for me super simple. Okay, the term boss, I call everyone boss. I'm like, what's up, boss? Like, I just want to, I use it as just like an energy phrase. Like, I'm like, oh, I want to make this person feel good. But the term boss or like manager, to me, manager or boss is a title. It's a
Mm.
title that you're given, it's just a word that labels you, versus a leader is an actual, it's a lifestyle. Leaders inspire people.
Yeah.
Leaders are the people who inspire people to act not because they have to, but because they want to. That's a Simon Sinek
Yeah.
quote from the book Start with Why.
Okay.
That leaders inspire people to act not because they have to, but because they want to. Bosses, to continue with what Simon Sinek says, bosses are using some form of manipulation,
Yeah.
whether it's money, right? Like, and that's a harmless form of manipulation that we all use, right? A salary, right? It's just so commonplace, but it's, hey, I'm going to give you money and you're going to do what I want you to do. That's a boss. Or you do this or you're going to get fired, or you do this because I told you so because I'm your boss, right? Versus a leader, there doesn't have to be anything in it for that person, right? A leader is someone who is inspiring people to do the things for the good of the group. They start
Yeah.
with why, they have that purpose. So that's the big distinction there, and I really draw that from Simon Sinek because it's just such a powerful idea.
Yeah. And I think that I would say for me, leaders are more intuitive. They I think it's a gift. I feel like, okay, I'll say that I feel like no one is called to be a boss. I feel like your calling, your purpose, your purpose can be a leader, because I feel like everyone isn't fit to be a leader, because
Mm,
everyone doesn't have the talent to see, to show you things that are in you that you don't even know that are in you, to be able to have the gift to pull things out of you that you don't even see. And so they're inspiring. They lead by example. Like a boss, I feel like a boss is like, you do this, you do that. And I don't necessarily have to be doing anything myself. I'm just directing you and telling you what to do. But a leader leads by example. Sometimes they may be not even a vocal leader. Like they just show you. Like I can show you better than I can tell you. And so I feel like a leader helps people maximize their potential.
mm, I love
And,
that.
and I feel like it's a gift. I feel like you're called to be a leader, but anyone can be a boss.
Do you think that anyone can develop as a leader? Do you think that there are skills that people can learn even if they're not born with them in terms of leadership qualities?
Yeah, I believe, like, because I feel like I consider myself a leader, but I didn't know it. Like I had no idea, and I feel like throughout life I kept being put in those positions, and like they pulled, like those positions that was put in, it pulled out of me and showed me like, man, I can look at, Johnny, Susie, and say like I can put her in the best position to help her succeed. I can put Johnny in the best position to help him succeed. But what I had to work on was me. And that's why I feel like leaders, if you don't work on yourself, if you're not doing any self-care, any self-reflection, any working on yourself, then you can't really help anyone else see, because you're clouded. You're clouded. You don't even know who you are. And how could you help someone else see who they are and realize their potential if you don't know who you are? So I feel like with me, I had to become more self-aware, aware of my identity to lead. So I feel like leaders leaders have to do so much work on their mental health. And I feel like a leader has to be someone that comes from a healthy mental place. So I feel like I truly agree with you. I feel like you can grow. There, I feel like a leader never stops growing.
100%. And to your point, I agree. I think that leaders, really have to seek that clarity both within themselves and where other people around them are going to be able to grow, excel, and see that full potential. So yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, and then just to speak to you for a second, I always like to speak into people. It's something about you, and this is off topic, that so I'm like a spiritual person. Something in your spirit connects with my spirit, and it excites me.
Mm,
It
thank you.
excites me. It lights a fire. You have a gift. And I tell David the same thing. It's something about when you just have it, you just have it. Like you just have it. Like I don't think it was like I won't go as deep into say that you were born for this, but I'll say that there's something in you that people need. When you speak, it's something it excites me. I can feel it here. Like it connects with me. And I say, like, you motivate me. Like I can feel like you can motivate people to do things that they don't even know that they can. So I would say that Parker is a leader.
Thank you. That I This is the first time that I've cried on a guest episode. No, that is really really kind of you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
No, I'm not just saying it. It's just something I feel like I'm a connection, and I felt that. And so I want you to take some time and just taking a breath. Like, where did that come from? Like taking a breath. Like how did you get the name, and what is the background story? What are you seeking to achieve with this podcast?
Yeah. So the name initially started out as it was the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it felt like when we started it felt like there was this pause button on life. And we were hearing, okay, you're gonna stay inside for, a week or 2 weeks, and then we're gonna be back to normal. And it was in that moment that I'm thinking, what do I need right now? Like, where do I need to be in order to actually like move forward with the things that I want to do? And so the idea of taking a breath was this pause button. It was evaluating what is most important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm spending the time reflecting, I realized that, leadership, that personal growth, that young people, is an area that I really wanted to spend time focused on. And the podcast started as a way just for me to learn from people around me. And the platform was kind of a byproduct where I could share what I was learning. But then it's developed over time into this place where actually students can come, they can meet each other, they can interact on a weekly basis, they can learn from each other. And so it's kind of been this interesting development of this mission of empowering young leaders to connect with each other and take action on their goals. And that's where it is now. Is it's like, not only am I learning, not only are other people learning, other students, but now they're actually able to learn from each other as well. And that really brings the vision full circle for where everything started out.
Oh, that's amazing. How many? So I know you're all over the world, not just in the US. So how many, like, I don't want to say that. So like states and countries, can you just like throw out there like how many people you connected with?
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of people that have actually like joined the community or been
Mhm.
on calls, there's over 100,
Wow.
like 16 to 24-year olds from India, UK, Nigeria, Canada, US, at multiple time zones and states across the US. So it's been really incredible because it pushed the boundaries of what I thought was possible. Like when I
Yeah.
started this, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get some kids from NC State. They're going to come on. And as it just grew, there was this realization that why am I like keeping it within the borders of like Raleigh, North Carolina,
Yeah.
or North Carolina, or the United States? It's like I wanted to create this accessible education and connection for people who wanted to, students from wherever they may be. And so that was kind of the vision there.
So do you feel like you were ordained to do this? Do you feel like this is like a part of your path, a part of your purpose?
I think that because of where my energy is, where my passion is, that this is an incredible piece of whatever my journey looks like. I think that this is a huge stepping stone for where I want to be in terms of helping young people. And I don't know what it looks like long term, but just realizing that I connect so well and so deeply with young people and students and where they are. I think this is going to be a piece that I look back on in 30 years and say, like, Taking a Breath podcast was where I knew
Yeah.
that I wanted to impact the lives of young people every day. And I want to be able to say in 30 years, I want to be able to say, I'm doing what
Mhm.
20-year-old Parker wanted to do.
No, no. I want you to say, even just a suggestion, like, don't even limit yourself to young people. Like I tell you, we're 18 years apart,
Yeah,
and you inspired me. So you don't
thank you.
even have to limit yourself to people that are young. Now, mind you, maybe they're a little bit more moldable. Like, I mean, like me, maybe I'm
Sure.
a little bit more set in my ways, but like, don't limit yourself to that age group because I feel
Yeah.
like when this episode goes out, I already know that I'm gonna get positive feedback. People are gonna be excited. They're probably gonna be driving like, man, I have to like focus. Like, this is not a podcast I can just play. Like, I have to sit and focus and listen to what you're saying. So
Yeah.
don't limit yourself. So before we close it out, I want to leave you with an opportunity to tell the people how they can connect with you and follow you.
Sure. Yeah, please. If you're on Instagram, give me a follow at Taking a Breath Podcast. It's just all spelled out. And that's the best place. Please DM me if you have questions or want to connect. If you're not there, just PMAYES at ncsu.edu. That's my student email right now. Reach out to me directly. I love connecting with people and I love chatting. And if you're in the student age group and you want to be a part of what we're talking about in terms of high achieving young leaders, drop me a DM again, and I'll get you connected with our group. And awesome people like David are there every single week, and it's just a cool place to connect. So I appreciate that opportunity, Lynette, to share that.
Oh, no problem. How often? What platforms are you like on Apple, the major?
Yeah, Taking a Breath podcast. You can find it on Apple, on Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Okay, like a weekly. Is it a weekly type?
It is, yeah. New episodes every Friday, and I most of my interviews are with young entrepreneurs who are teaching about what they're learning through their kind of ventures. Or a lot of times we'll do people who are further along, professors. I love interviewing like teachers because
Okay.
they love that energy of just asking and answering questions. So I'm doing a lot with that right now, and I'm looking for some kind of further along guests, and that's where I'm at right now in terms of growing the podcast, just starting to kind of pull from these connections that I'm able to make, and we'll see what happens.
No, you're great. I want you to leave like a quote or something. Just light a fire on a guest. Like, I want them to, when they think about Parker, what do you want to leave with them?
Yeah, don't wait to take action. That's my like this feedback that I give for people are waiting for January 1st, for example, because it's
Yeah.
relevant. People wait for January 1st, or they wait for permission, or they wait for the economy to be right, or they wait for, the all this. And I just want to personally give you permission today that if there's something that you want to do, if there's something that you have been waiting for, who knows what, go out and try it.
Mhm.
I'm 20, and I said, you know what, permission, I'm not waiting for that, right? I
Okay.
don't want to wait till I'm 40 for someone to tell me, all right, you can do this.
Yes.
I want to be doing this type of stuff. I want to be talking to people who are 18 years ahead of me about personal growth and motivation because it's important. And so no matter where you're at, again, whether you're 10 years old or 80 years old, like, there is opportunities to really jump in and take action. So don't wait to take action on those most important goals.
No, this has been great. I know your parents are proud. I don't even know them, but I'm going to say I know your parents are proud. And thank you, Parker.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. And you all know I cannot leave you all without quoting my favorite scripture found in Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the thoughts I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. God is going to bring us to our expected end, you and me. All right? So go out there this week, continue to be amazing, continue to be great. Until next time, nice to meet you. Let's go.